Welcome back. This is the second video in our Nourish the Teacher Wellness series, a video series that's designed just for teachers to help you build up your deep energy reserves and help making some small, tiny shifts that can make you feel way, way better in the long run. All right. Today's video is all about our big why. We're going to go through many variations of the big why so you can figure out what it is for you that makes you want to change. And we talked a little bit about this last time in terms of why you were here, why you were tuning in, and there must be something that's going on for you that you want to change. And so let's look a little bit deeper at that and make that feeling of wanting to change into something that's actually going to motivate you to do that. All right, let's get started. So last time we talked about ama, that toxic sludge within our body that accumulates in our joints and throughout our veins and everywhere this is a waste, and how this makes us feel tired and achy and sore, indecisive and foggy. Some of the few of the symptoms of that. But today we want to focus more on the future and your potential. We want to create a future where we are not controlled by ama. We want to create a future where we can feel healthy, alive, refreshed, and just ready to embrace life fully and with joy. When we looked yesterday at those symptoms of ama, or what ama can do in our body, you remember those images of the buildup on our teeth, on our tongue, in our lungs, and just all through the body. For some, this image of this toxicity and this buildup within the body is their big why. I have one client that heard about this toxic sludge in the body, and she came to me saying, I don't want this. How do I get rid of this? And how do I live my life without this ama? How can I reduce this? And so that for her was her big why. And perhaps that's the same with you, that those images are graphic enough that you want to stay away from that. For others, we might look to the consequences of ama. So what does this ama do? What are the long-term effects of ama? And within the Ayurvedic philosophy or study, they have something called the 6 stages of disease. And so when you first feel just a little off at stage 1, so that gut reaction that something is not right. And then it starts to progress. Through stage 2, it kind of goes through the body, and maybe it ends up as an inflamed shoulder or something that's holding you back, or fogginess within the brain. And then eventually the symptoms get worse and worse, and Western medicine actually picks up the symptoms at about stage 4 or stage 5. Stage 5 is when we start to have irreparable damage. And so if Western medicine is not picking it up until 4 or 5, there's so much we can do to help prevent this from happening in those earlier stages of 1 to 3 if we really tune into our body. Okay, let's look at this a little bit deeper. I'll give you some examples of what these signs of ama can turn into. So if you're feeling a little bit frazzled or foggy in the brain, this can turn into chronic indecisiveness and even Alzheimer's. If you're feeling stiff and achy joints, this can build up into arthritic joints, which are stiff and losing their range of motion. If you feel quick to anger and judge, this can lead to heartburn, an ulcer, and possibly even a heart attack. Or a little bit more on the subtle side, if you're feeling misunderstood or unheard, this can lead to feelings of depression and low energy, and can actually lead eventually to thyroid imbalance. So from something as simple as just not feeling that your voice is being heard, to being quick to anger, or those symptoms within the body of the stiffness and the achiness, they build up to something much larger. So let's look back at those signs of ama from our first day. You can look back on your worksheet if you have that handy there, and just notice which ones that you had ticked off that you feel often or occasionally, and just start to extrapolate that out. And what could that coated tongue and dull appetite, what could that mean later on? Or if you're having trouble eliminating from your system, what does that mean? If you've got congestion and difficulty breathing, where is that going to lead? If you're just feeling really tired and depressed, What's that next step for you there? Just take a moment and just sense into the scale of how you feel. And what does that trajectory look like? And how critical is this getting to be in your life? Is this your big why? Another way to look at the big why is, what does the future hold for you? What will this look like in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? What's that picture of your wisdom years looking like? And is this what you want? Is this current trajectory the life that you want to lead? And the future that you aspire to? Or is there something that you can do now to shift that path so you end up feeling more vibrant and alive instead of needing help and support? All right, let's just tap into a minute for what's costing you. So we've looked at a couple different methods of the big why, but this one here can be pretty powerful as well. And it can be costing you in terms of financially, in terms of your career and those decisions. It can also be your health expenses financially, or it might be costing you something in relationships and lost opportunities and just that lost feeling of not being able to live out what you dreamed of. So I want you to write this down on your worksheet. Just jot down a couple of areas where this toxic buildup is actually costing you money. And so if you have a lot of health expenses, you can jot approximate value of what that is per month, per year. It might be prescriptions, massage, physio, chiropractic, all of those things fall into that realm. You can also look at your job. If you had more energy, what would that look like? What would you be reimbursed for that? And then those intangibles in terms of your relationships and how having more energy would shift how you interact with others. Quite often my clients are astonished by how much this can add up to. And quite often we don't figure that out until after it's already gone. When we can start to let some of those painkillers and stuff go by the wayside. We don't need quite so many appointments that we're rushing off to. We can spend that time somewhere else. And just that opportunity, that benefit of all the abundance and opportunities that start to flow into your life instead of feeling constricted and in pain. It's huge. So the impact of what this costs you will be significant as you go along this path. So all of this is part of our big why. So modern habit change theory relies on this big why. It's one of the critical factors for instigating change. If we know why we want to change, it's so much easier to actually make that change. So we're going to go into some more habit theory in a moment. But I want us to tap into this and maybe even do a little meditation if you want to indulge me in that. But first I want to introduce you to another character from Ayurveda, and this is Ojas. And Ojas is that sweetness, that nectar of life. So I like to imagine Ojas as the nectar of the gods and the goddesses from the ancient mythology. And where the amount of ama can be quite significant as it builds up in our body, the amount of Ojas is really, really small. It is far more precious. We only actually have a few drops of Ojas. It's a precious substance to be nurtured and protected. And just as we looked after all those around us, perhaps the kids in your care, your own kids, perhaps your parents, your significant other, and your friends, we also need to look after and nourish our own Ojas. So some of the signs of Ojas, and these are quite opposite from the signs of ama, you'll notice. So when we have a good supply of Ojas, you'll wake up and feel rested. Your skin will have a nice healthy glow and your tongue will be clear and pink. Your body feels light. Regardless of the number on the scale, you just feel a lightness and ease in your body. You feel centered throughout the day. Your digestion is nice and strong and you don't have all the bloating issues or the pain after you eat. You may feel energized and enthusiastic, and your mind will be clear and focused. Your body may have a nice pleasant smell, and you rarely get sick You're not falling prey to every little cold that comes your way. You've got those deep reserves to ward all of that off. So let's connect with this more positive outlook. Let's do a little bit of a meditation to build up some ojas within your body. So everyone, I want you to sit up nice and tall, roll your shoulders back, just feel grounded in your seat. Then I want you just to close your eyes for a moment. Just connect with your breath. You feel that breath moving in and moving out, just slowly and easily. I want you to imagine waking up without feeling tired as you start your day. Imagine waking up and starting the day by looking after you first, taking just 2 minutes perhaps to focus on how you feel and what you need. What would you do? Imagine being able to think clearly and decisively so that things actually take less time to get done. What would you do with an extra 15 minutes or 2 hours in your day? Imagine not reacting to each little stress, but mindfully going about your day in a state of ease and grace. What would that be like to eat and feel nourished and supported by the foods that you eat? Imagine your relationships with others if you're not feeling rushed and overwhelmed, but instead you feel balanced, at ease, and centered. How would you interact with your colleagues, your students, your principal, and your own family and your spouse and your friends? Imagine those easeful relationships. And now I want you to take us out into the future. What is your potential to achieve? If you were doing your best at work and the things that you love to do, what would that look like in your future? And then going on even further, imagine what your wisdom years would be filled with. If you felt health and joy, instead of rushing to doctor's appointments and prescription bills. All right, let's quantify this big why now. On your worksheet, I want you to jot down 3 to 5 phrases or words of how you want to feel when you wake up in the morning. Do you want to feel light and at ease, clear, focused, centered? Do you want to feel an absence of pain or ache? Do you want to have energy to do everything you want to do? Energy left over in your day because you were so productive for the rest of your day. What does that look like for you? So jot down a couple things there for your big why. And we've done many things with our big why today, so I want you to look over your whole worksheet. And I want you to star or circle the one that most resonates with you. So do you resonate with not wanting to have that toxic sludge within your body? Do you resonate with the consequences and choosing a different path for you? Do you resonate with the cost and how you would rather spend your money on something more productive than health bills, and how the cost of your relationships and lost opportunity? Do you resonate with this image of the future and just how you want to wake up and how you want to feel? Any of these are really great reasons of why to make change. So figure out which one is your key. All right. That's not all. I want us to go one step further tonight and work on the habit that we started yesterday. And how did it go? Did you get to bed earlier? Did you get a better sleep? Did you do what you proposed to do? And if yes, that's great. Keep it up. If no, or if it was hard, then we're just going to add in some more habit change magic. So this is the habit change loop, the habit loop. And this is a version by Charles Duhigg, where he has cue, routine, and reward. I like to visualize this or word this as trigger, habit, and reward. But either words work. They mean the same. So what we're going to look at for a good night's sleep is going to add in this habit change loop, and to make sure that this happens for us more nights than not this week. So to start off with, we have to look at what do we want to do. So when are we trying to wind down? Not what time we want to go to sleep, but what's our wind down time? We want to set our alarm for that wind down time so that we have a cue or a trigger that's going to start this habit. All right, and then the habit or the routine that we're going to do is whatever you chose yesterday. We don't want you to choose something new. The more we do it, the more consistent that feels, and the more that actually helps our nervous system to calm down. The more consistent we can do each night with how we go to bed. So pick whatever that one that was yesterday. That's going to be what we do. So the cue or the trigger is our alarm goes off. The routine or the habit that we're going to do is that relaxing energy. So it might have been doing a yoga pose or some meditation or journaling. It might have been a bath, whatever that happens to be. So that's our routine. And then we come to the reward. All right. And the reward is super sweet, right? But it does get a little bit tricky. And often we have to spend a little bit of time figuring out what the right reward is. And so often on our coaching calls together, this is where we'll spend the bulk of the time is figuring out the right trigger, the habit, and the reward that's going to work for you. So the reward might be just getting a good night's sleep. For some, that's enough. That's all that they're looking for, and that's awesome. For others, that reward might be more tangible, like putting a little bit of essential oil on the bottoms of your feet, or just having a moment to put some essential oils in your diffuser to make sure you get that good sleep as you go through the night. It might be a nice soothing cup of tea, or even that nice relax in the bath. For others, it might be the sticker chart, or the adult version of a sticker chart. So for me, I like to color in different mandalas and images, and I don't want to have a piece that's missing at the end. So that's a good reward for me and my perfectionist nature that I'm working on. But in this case, it works. So to figure out what it is, and ideally we want a reward that is going to help us along the path and not something that is going to send us off. Now, that being said, when you have a sticker chart of a reward, maybe you're building up for that once a week treat. So maybe you're coloring it in, and after you get 5 spaces colored in or 7 spaces colored in, you get to have that nice glass of wine or piece of chocolate. But not every night. We want to pick something that's going to help us along the path. And you notice a lot of these rewards for this habit in particular with having a good night's sleep are ones that are also going to help us get that good night's sleep. So figure out what thing that you're going to do, whether that's meditating or a yoga pose or some reading or whatever that was. Then figure out something that's going to reward you for doing that. The rewards are critical to that brain center of control on making us want to do it again. So don't skip that step. All right, so you've got 2 really key habit change tools right now. And one is the big why. And when we connect with our big why, it makes it that much easier to follow through. So perhaps you even program that big why into your alarm. So when your phone starts to beep, you look at it and says, oh, I want to feel good tomorrow. Or, oh, I don't want to be stiff and achy. I'm going to bed right now. That's going to be a lot more effective than, oh, my alarm is going. I have to go to bed. But tailor that in so that when that alarm gets triggered, we're remembering that big why. And then the other piece of habit change theory is this habit loop. So having a trigger, a habit and reward, or cue, routine, and reward will help to fuel that along. Each time you get that reward, it's going to make you want to follow through again the next day. All right, let's just take a moment here before we end off to connect again to how you want to feel. And this exercise in and of itself is ojas building. It's going to help build our deep reserves. Just take a couple of nice deep breaths. Just imagine that with each breath in, you're filling that reserve of ojas. And with each breath out, just relax your shoulders down and release. Just take a couple of those. And then I want you just to tap into how do you want to feel when you wake up in the morning? What do you want your day to be filled with? What would bring you joy that's not present in your life right now? Good. In our next lesson, we're going to look deeper into how to get more ojas, how to build more of that deep energy reserves and get more juice. We're going to look at ways to get rid of our ama and what that whole day looks like when we're supporting our energy and our ojas. All right. Again, get a great night's sleep. Try that trigger habit and reward philosophy and connect with that big why. Figure out what it is that's going to help you along this path of change. All right. Good night.